Bucks had their first and I guess only night practice of the training camp period, at least, over at One Buck Place. It was Sweet Holder night. Pretty good crowd indoors, and good thing because there was some inclement weather earlier in the day, so I'm not sure how it would have gone in the afternoon. But I'll tell you, these guys really...
There's a heck of a thunderstorm going on in Dade City area. We could see from where we live.
Right. You can see great, on the way home I was driving, there was all kinds of that, what you call heat lightning, which is fantastic lightning show.
Yeah, that's up by Dade City, and that is where that is happening. And it's
so cool.
A ways away from where I live, and lighting up the sky like nobody's business.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I love that about Florida. But, when they go indoors, it's sort of a mixed emotion thing. It's like, oh, thank God they're out of the heat, which we're grateful for, although it was very warm. When you put a couple thousand people inside there, especially with what the temperature is outside, not all that comfortable, but better than getting baked on during the afternoon. And so the players, they had a little extra time during the day, to get their legs back, and after the first day in pads, and they were in pads again, but indoors. But the negative is, that turf, man, it's pretty scary. If you're a coach or a player, it just grabs guys. It grabs their feet. You can, sprain a knee. There's a lot of things that are not good about it. That there's a reason why players would prefer to be on grass. And the surprising thing to me too was and we had a chance to talk to him before the practice, but Mike Evans, who for all the world, he knows what he has to do to prepare himself for the regular season. In fact, I asked him, does it get easier, harder? What, he's he's been with the Bucs since 2014. So this is his 12th season. And he goes, it actually gets easier. I was like, really? And he was like, well, first of all, they're pretty good with me in terms of giving me time off and, taking care of my body. He goes, but I've just gotten better at it. And I kind of know, what to avoid in terms of treatment and stuff like that, what I need to do to get ready to practice. And because he has days off, he's able to recharge. But you know what? I was asking Bowles tonight, because if there was a practice that I thought, might be a good one for Mike to sit out, it'd be the night practice, because you have a day off today. And so you could double up, you have the not practice on the turf and indoors, and, you might grab an ankle or a knee or something like that, and then have your day off tomorrow. But not Mike. Mike wanted to do some things. He didn't practice, he didn't have as many reps as he sometimes does outside, but he showed up. He made plays in the red zone as usual. And that stood out for the reason that I'm telling you, this training camp, in my, naked eye estimation, has been dominated, quite frankly, by the defense. And that's nothing you would have said last year, with an offense that scored almost 30 points a game. They do have a new offensive coordinator. They don't have Tristan Wirfs, but those are the only major changes. Schematically, they're the same. What's different
you don't have
is
Chris Godwin either. Or what you said, Kate Otten didn't play tonight.
Kate Otten hadn't practiced in about 3 days. Yep. He's nursing some hamstring injuries, which is typical this time of year, but not preferred. But even having said that, they still have plenty of talent on that side of the ball. Team that averaged almost 29 points a game, 29 and a half points a game. But the defense is winning the day and then winning the next day, at least in my eyes. There's some back and forth at times, but if you were to count the sacks and the pressures and the quarterbacks that would have been hit, it's clearly, in my estimation, on the defense's advantage. And the biggest difference is, quite frankly, it's coverage. The combination of pressure and coverage. And these young kids, we've seen Benjamin Morrison now run some with the ones. Jacob Parrish is sort of playing as their starting nickel corner. Both those guys, I believe, had interceptions, in the night practice. They just show up. Morrison, can have his back turned. He's one of the best guys I've seen do it, have his back completely turned to the quarterback, read the receiver, and at the very last second, turn to find the ball, and he tracks it so well. Not only does he find it, but he doesn't drop it. This guy has great hands. He has receiver-type hands. So he's done a nice job. And then Parrish, if we had him on the podium, there are some guys, and it's just their personality, right? Um, but there are some guys where you feel like, all right, if he's in a bar, they got to ask him to leave to start happy hour. Like he's so serious all the time. I'm sure not, it's not that the case when he's not with us, but when he's up there talking football, man, he's all football. Like there's no small talk about this dude. He wants to be great. He's got high expectations as he should. But those two young corners, man, and they're getting reps now with the first unit more and more. I'm telling you, the competition makes everybody better, and they got some depth now in the secondary. And then Tyke Smith moving to safety looks really good. Looks really good. He can affect the game in so many ways. We know he can play in the box, and now he's going to have a chance to blitz a little bit, which is something he never does. What I wonder is when they have a situation where they want to move Winfield down and go single high safety, how good or comfortable Tyke will be with all that grass back there. It is such a huge field, and there's so many guys that can get up on the safety really quick with the speed that's out there. I think that's going to still be an adjustment for him. But, he's making plays all over the place too. So, you know, good for Todd Bowles, good for his defense. Maybe Grizzard, needs a little more seasoning. That's why they're doing some of the call it periods and things like that. But it's just sort of been more defense than offense, and I think that's the way it should go because defenses react and offenses have to execute. That's just the way the game is played. But so far, I really
But how,
do
how
think that
much of
that's where it's
this? How
going.
much of this is Baker holding the ball longer, knowing he can't get hit? So
Well,
are you kind of seeing how the receivers run their routes? And I know you've talked to Brad Johnson's mentioned it and other players.
yeah, he
Like you
takes
try you
chances.
try things
Hmm.
in
Yeah,
preseason and training camp that you normally don't do.
that's
You've
true.
got some younger receivers out there at times. Maybe you're holding on the ball to see how they run the routes and where they you're not in a rush to get the ball out. You're not you just don't know what they're executing on.
Yeah.
Um, or
No, that's
how much of it is the D line just dominating too?
well, a
And
lot, a lot. I think that when you have a healthy Cansey and a healthy Vita Vea, and Yaya Diaby is playing really, really fast now, and then you add a Hassan Reddick, like those four guys are a handful, man. They're a handful. Every play, if they're coming, there's a chance that one of them is going to win, and that's the
Mhm.
thing you can't really judge unless you slow the tape down because they run right by the quarterback, and you see the quarterback make a throw, and everybody's watching the football. If you watch the football, you miss the game. But on many occasions, I think that the quarterback wouldn't have gotten it off or he would have gotten planted. But he has no fear, so he can keep his eyes downfield. You're not going to do that in a real game. But those four down linemen, and even the guys that are behind them, the Anthony Nelsons, even Chris Braswell has had some good rushes. They're doing a nice job up front, and the offensive line, is without Tristan, and that shows. It really does. It shows up. There's no way around it. You don't have an All-Pro left tackle anymore. Charlie Heck's going to get beat, does get beat. And then every time it happens, you go, well, Yaya's playing really well, or Reddick's playing really well. But at some point, they got to protect him. And yeah, I think Baker takes chances. I do, although he's kind of started this training camp with the intent to cut down on his interceptions. He had 16 last year, so I don't know that you cut down on them by throwing them in practice, but it is about timing. It's about getting used to some new guys. I think he's throwing the ball pretty well. I think he's made pretty good decisions. I just think guys have made nice plays on the ball. When you got your back turned to the quarterback and he throws a perfect fade to somebody and the guy flips his head around at the very last second and either knocks the ball down or intercepts it, that's just a hell of a play by the defensive back. But when it comes to, you can tell when it's Mike, they're just in such great sync together. They have such chemistry now, throwing a million balls to each other. Mike's so deadly in the red zone. If he gets a one-on-one, he's just going to win. He's just going to win against anybody. So when the rubber meets the road and Baker's got to make a play and he extends plays, he's looking for Mike. He said it before. It's like, I'm gonna throw the ball to Mike because it's about players, not plays, as my friend Tom Moore says. And and Baker knows that, and he's made plays like that. He still is off script at times. It's just interesting to me, like to watch the team get put together. Although the number one thing you saw it throughout the NFL, man, there was a ton of players got hurt, and some of them some what looks to be some serious injuries around the league, and that makes sense because there's 90 guys on a team. There's 32 NFL teams that are out there now practicing every day. But boy, there was a list of some guys that, when I was talking to. Oh, who was it? Somebody with the Bucks in the front office, and it was basically, oh no, it was Grizzard mentioned this. I talked to him after his press conference today, a little bit by myself, and he said that, and I was asking him, I said, well, do you ever do the woe is me thing? Like, I get to be offensive coordinator, but I don't get the all pro left tackle to start the season, and now I got to put resources over there, and now my offense is, and he was just like, oh no, to be honest with you, he goes, just look what happened today. He goes, we're going to get Tristan back. Like it's not like he's out for the year. He goes, but man, you look around the league and you start seeing these injuries pop up, and he says, I actually feel pretty fortunate, that it's not something that's gonna cancel his season. So glass half full, all that stuff. It's still going to affect the resources he has to use to protect Baker, which affects how many guys you have out in the routes and how eligible they are. And if you want to say, well, just run the ball, well, that's what the defense knows you want to do. And it's going to be some tough yards doing that too if you can't protect and throw it. So there's a lot of learning going on here with a new offensive coordinator. And, these things are hard to judge. What'll be fun is when they get to scrimmage against Tennessee, and then they go to Pittsburgh and have a joint practices with them, because the other side doesn't know what you're doing. There's a lot of cheating that goes on when you're off scripts every day, and the defense does their walkthrough and the offense does their walkthrough, and then they come together and you kind of know each other. You can read things, but when you have these joint practices, you're just reacting. So we'll see. I still think it's a good football team. People are pretty excited about them. Some of the new guys that they brought in here are starting to get more reps now, at tackle and different positions and stuff like that. So we'll see if they can integrate maybe some others into that left tackle spot. I think we're a long way from just handing the job to anybody. I think, this before it's over, I think this will be a competition. But right now, it's Charlie Heck's job. So we shall see what they do with all that. Bucks have a day off today, and much needed rest for everyone. And for that matter, for the NFL. This story was terrible, and it happened, I think, after we spoke, Steve. At least that's when I saw it. Was this gunman who killed 4 people in Manhattan, and not just anywhere in Manhattan in an office building, but really the office building on Park Avenue that houses the NFL headquarters. That's right. That's where Roger Goodell and all his front office types are there with the NFL in New York City. And unfortunately, this young man, 27 years old, Shane Tamura, who was an old Las Vegas casino worker, he actually was trying to get to the NFL offices, but he accidentally got onto the wrong elevator. And that's probably the only thing that, prevented him from, going in there and trying to take out people from the NFL office. One woman who does work for the NFL was shot. I don't know her condition right now, but there was a 3-page note found in Tamura's wallet that sort of suggested he had a grievance against the NFL over a claim that he suffered from CTE. He was a high school football player, never progressed beyond high school. But that was sort of, and it can only be diagnosed once you're dead. But in the note, he repeatedly said he was sorry, and he asked that his brain be studied for CTE. It also referenced Terry Long, his former NFL player who was diagnosed with CTE, and in a way in which Long actually killed himself in 2005. So it, accused the NFL of concealing things. It's just really odd. It's very, very obviously a very disturbed guy. Who knows, whether he did or didn't have this, but what a story. I mean, could you not that look, there are people that are not with us today, that, he happened to be in his line of sight. But his intentions were the NFL office. And if he gotten in there, there'd probably be more recognizable names that we're aware of. I texted Brian McCarthy, who's their vice president, I think, for president for communications up there. And I guess they were, kind of had a work at home day, but they're pretty shooken up about it. And then you can see why. I will talk about the Rays and their latest failure in New York as the trade deadline is so close right now. But first, hey, go see our friends at Breitling Boutique International Plaza Mall. That's where you're going to find them in the center of the mall, second floor. Great customer service. Now, the Breitling company has been in business for over 140 years. They've been making the best Swiss watches anywhere in the world. They've been at International Plaza for the last 5+ years. Now, you're going to see a great collection of timepieces, men's watches, the chronomats, the Navitimers, women's watches as well for your wife or your girlfriend. These are sports watches that are beautiful and very, very durable. And she gets to choose from just an array of different colored wristbands. And while supplies last, and this is important because I'm sure they have disappeared fast since we've been talking about them, they are celebrating the NFL's 104th year anniversary. 32 teams in the National Football League. There are 32 different team watches by Breitling Boutique. These are the Chronomat watches. They have the team colors on the face of the watch, the logo inside. Absolutely stunning. Go to tampabay.com. You can see a copy of the Bucks team watch at Breitling Boutique. Please see our friends. You're going to love the customer service. Spend some time, have a drink, figure out exactly what will fit your budget and your wrist. It's Breitling Boutique International Plaza Mall. Make sure you let them know that you heard about it right here on Sports Day Tampa Bay. All right, I don't know what to say about the Rays other than it got interesting in the ninth inning. They definitely tried to make it a game there late. But this Yankee team without Aaron Judge, of course, they ran into what has been one of the best left-handed pitchers in baseball this year, and a guy that has owned them. But man,
they got 3 runs off him early.
Right away. They jumped him for 3, but then
Yeah.
they gave up 4.
Yeah, Joe Boyle gave up the 3-run home run.
Yep.
Make it tied, and then he gave up another run later. He struggled a little bit. You saw some. We've seen it every time he goes in, but why? If he can keep pounding the strike zone, he can be electric.
Absolutely.
But the walks and nibbling and trying to avoid the strike zone is what gets him in trouble.
Yep.
And Brian Anderson talked about on the TV broadcast, like, the Rays have been working with him, like, your stuff plays. You don't need to throw it outside the zone.
Nope.
You don't need to nibble, which is what he's done pretty much a lot of his career. You're trying to nibble and get that strikeout and get him to chase. Well, your stuff plays fine in the zone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just locate it and you'll be fine. And you see that from him, but then he, has his moments. But that's what young rookie pitchers do. And, you're going to have some great moments. You're going to have some rough moments with him.
Yeah. Cody Bellinger got him with the short porch in right field, but I think you're right. I mean, I think, if he could just attack the strike zone early, these guys that can throw almost 100 miles an hour, he can break 100. Like, man, that's just so hard to hit. I don't care if you throw it center cut, and that's not a guarantee that these guys are going to hit that.
Mm-hmm.
So you just got to find a way to stay ahead of hitters, and he gave back a pretty big lead. Look, they had a chance right until the end. They had the tying runs on base, second and third with 2 out, and Jonathan Aranda up, who had already hit a home run and I believe had another hit. So had the right guy up in the right situation after some curious play on defense by the Yankees. That's a terrible defensive team, by the way.
It is. I mean, what? Anthony Volpe, 2 errors tonight?
Oh, my God. Yeah.
Like, he aimed that last throw in the ninth.
You can see the elbow just get tight as he was trying to throw.
He took that extra crow hop, and then he aimed it.
Yeah. Like he was throwing a dart or something.
Yep.
Yeah, it was bad. It was really bad. And I don't know how you can continue playing shortstop if you're gonna freeze up like that. I mean, he's obviously got the yips when it comes to, just routine throws. He's lucky he didn't have more of them in that game. But I mean, here sit the Yankees without Aaron Judge, not playing great defense, not had a really good pitcher going, but you had him. You had him on the ropes. You had a chance to win this game, and now we have the trade deadline for real.
Yep.
And there's a lot of speculation. Buster Olney, I heard, was on with some of the guys on one of our local radio stations on DAE, and he was talking about like everybody is for sale, but really did think that Zach Littell would move.
Yep.
He mentioned, Pete Fairbanks has. There's a lot of talk about him. I don't know if they'll actually trade him or not. So much depends on what you're getting back. Yandy Diaz's name has come up. Brandon Lau, of course, has come up. But then I heard Mark Tompkin on later in the day, and he said, well, I heard that report. He goes, but all I can tell you is, kind of talk to Nylander, and they'd like to keep the group together. They'd like to find a way to do that. And it would, you kind of intimated it's going to take a heck of an offer, which they may get, to part with some of these players.
Well, I believe Zach Littell will get traded because he's a free agent.
Yeah.
You expect to have Joe Boyle in your rotation next year. You expect Shane McClanahan to be back either later this year or next year.
Right.
Ian Seymour can pitch for you. Like starting pitching, much like they traded Jeffrey Springs at the beginning of the season. They can afford to part with Zach Littell for next year. They don't plan on re-signing him, so get something for him now. They may even trade him even if they were buying. Like that may be a move to just bring somebody else up.
True.
Clevenger may get traded.
Yeah, I've heard that name was up. Buster mentioned him as well.
And I think if somebody, and there's been talk the Yankees were asking about, and maybe other teams, a Caballero, who can play so many different positions and is fast on the bases.
Steal bases, yeah.
I think if someone called about him, yes. Belau, Yandy, and Fairbanks. I think the Rays are open to trading. But they have their deals for next season are not unreasonable. They're pretty team-friendly options for next year.
Agreed.
So I think for the Rays to trade any one of those three, you're going to have to knock their socks off because they can hold them and trade them in the offseason if they want to trade them or keep that team-friendly option for next year.
Yeah. Although Yandy is 34, and if there was a team that wanted a professional hitter to DH or play first base, I could see that. I could see them moving him.
Oh, I could see. I mean, there's teams calling.
They could move any of them, right, if they got the right deal.
But I don't think they're moving them for, we think we got equal value. Like, it's going to be.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You've got to convince us. You got to make an offer I can't refuse. Like, that's what. I could be wrong, but I don't think, like you said, they're not at risk of losing any of those three players. So you could trade them this offseason if you want to trade them then. Like Littell is a free agent. Like I said, I think he'll get traded. Everybody else is maybe. I mean, like I said, knock my socks off. Make me an offer. I gotta go. I can't turn that down.
Well, and do you get sometimes a better offer at the deadline because there is a deadline versus the off season in essence?
Well, for instance, if you're trading for, let's just say Fairbanks, he's got a option for next year, whatever, 10, 12 million, something in that range. If you trade for him now, you get him for a season and 2 months.
Right.
If you trade for him in the offseason, you only get him for 1 season under contract. So
that's what I mean.
It's worth a little less in the offseason.
But
if you don't get the offer that you think it's worth it at this point, you don't. It's not like if you don't trade Littell, you're going to lose him for nothing at the end of the season. So, and if you really want to keep the group together, you really like this group, the clubhouse and the camaraderie in that, then, it's got to be an offer that you think you can't turn down. Danny Jansen was going to be a free agent, so they traded him. And now they got a younger catcher came in who's under team control for a few more years.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting what the Rays do. And the other thing from tonight's game, and this has been going on for a while, and I know there's some hosts in town that screaming for Morel to get cut. And, if he didn't have if he had options, he wouldn't be on this team right now. He'd be in Durham. What I don't understand is, look, you're going to play him periodically because he's on your team, and the Rays don't play the same guys 162 games. Like they play matchups. They try to keep guys in the game because you need pinch hitters. You need this. Like, they don't just sit guys on the bench and you don't start for 3 weeks. There's some teams that do that. The Rays don't. Like, you're on this roster, you're going to start a couple times a week probably. But why is Morel batting fourth? And I know he's a right-handed bat. And then in the 8th or 9th inning, you don't pitch hit for Morel, but you pinch hit for DeLuca.
Yeah,
Made
that was
absolutely
curious.
no sense.
I guess, and I was just listening to Neil and those guys talk about it on the radio when he was up. I guess he can, and it hasn't happened with any frequency, but he can run into a home run every now and then.
Sure.
And he had, even though he had struck out twice and wound up striking out again, but he had a loud foul ball that was just foul that would have been home run distance. Now, foul balls shouldn't keep you in the big leagues very long, but
DeLuca had a triple earlier in the game. I mean,
DeLuca had a triple. He was very productive, more productive even than Morel. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that one. I don't get it.
What I don't understand, and I was trying to reason through this, and this isn't the first time he doesn't pinch hit for Morel and then somebody else gets pinch hit for.
Right.
You kind of scratch your head. Is this the front office telling him to do this?
Why though? What would be their motivation?
Hoping he runs into a few and showcases him for whatever?
You mean for a trade?
Or is it Kevin Cash trying to send him out there saying, this guy stinks. I'm going to show you he stinks.
You trade my other guys. I got to play him.
Well, I don't. Why are we DFAing other guys?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know his and we'll
the psychology of the lineup.
Yeah. Well, but is this the front office wanting to? Hopefully, Morel gets hot and you can get something for him, or is it Kevin Cash saying, "Look, you give me this guy, I keep playing him. He's not good." I don't know.
Morel and hot are two words that have not been used much this year. That I can tell you for sure.
I mean, anytime, and look, when you're in a slump, and it's been a season long
for a whole year,
but when you're in a slump, I mean, that's when you start going, "Oh, he hit a foul ball really hard."
Well, they said it on the Brian. It's like, hey, he just missed a home run. I mean, what is that? Jeez.
But I mean, when you're pinning your hopes on he's got 3 strikeouts tonight, but he hit a
literally,
fly ball
and
almost.
I'm not. I know. Yeah, I'm not rapping on Neil. Believe me, I love Neil. He's does a good job, but like you could almost see him just sort of, and I think it was Neil, not Andy, but you almost see him sort of like, let me reach for this one, okay? Because I don't really know why he's up. But he finally got around to the point of saying, "Here's Morel. He struck out 3 times, but he did come very close to a home run ball, just barely a foul."
But
and
if
then
you're kneeling real time trying to figure out why isn't he being pitch hit for? It's a righty
right. You're
versus
talking
righty.
to yourself.
Like if it was a lefty on the mound, okay, leave the right-handed bat in. I get that. Like that one, I could go okay.
The part I liked was he struck out 3 times, but. Okay. Like nothing that comes after he struck out 3 times is good. Right?
Not usually.
You're stretching, man. All right, we'll do you one better though. You know what's worse than a strikeout? A ground ball double play, because now you've made 2 outs.
Well, yeah. So look, he only made 3 outs in those 3 strikeouts, not 6.
That's it. They had first and second, nobody out in the 8th, trailing by 2.
Next time Chandler Simpson's in a slump, we're gonna be like, well, he had that one bunt that just went foul.
I know. It's silly. It really is silly. So yeah, if he could just run into one again, fair this time.
Yeah, I just didn't understand why you keep batting him 4th when you bat. And I know, like I said, I know it's the right-handed bat part,
I think it's just the potential of power. I mean, that's what they're looking for.
But
I mean,
none
they
of
know
the analytics are saying this guy's going to do good against Max Fried.
No,
like.
Right now, no one's doing good against Max.
I mean, the Rays did get 3 runs off him, but Morel struck out.
Right. He'd struck out 3 times again.
Yeah.
What could change? Oh, ground ball double play. That's what changed.
Yep.
Yee. Eh.
And then one more baseball note.
How
about Bryce Harper and Rob Manfred?
Harper. Remember the commercial Harper? So Manfred, let me get if I have this story straight. He was talking to the greater Philadelphia Phillies baseball team.
He goes around every season and he meets with every club once.
Yeah.
So he goes in the clubhouse, talks to them, talks about.
So it was Phillies' turn in the
issues
clubhouse.
Of the game. Yeah. So last week he was in the Phillies clubhouse, talking to the players. And granted, the CBA is expiring in December of 26, so after next season.
Right.
And Manfred's been pretty open about wanting some major changes in baseball. And,
More major changes?
well, like
Are the bases in the speed
Salary.
clock not enough? Oh,
He's not.
with salary
He's
cap.
not exactly saying salary cap, but everything he's talking about is
competitive balance is what we're talking about.
Most of our fans believe that their teams have no shot, and
right. Even though the statistics, if you look over the last decade or so of World Series champions, would fight against that. But go ahead.
Well, but I mean, let's look at the last champions. I mean, Dodgers,
Astros, Yankees have not won, but they've been in the World Series.
Braves, Cubs when they won in 16.
Yeah.
I mean, the Giants are one of the best teams now. The Padres, they all have huge payrolls. Most of the best teams have huge payrolls.
Yeah.
The Rays are kind of the exception that makes the playoffs consistently. But so Manfred's been talking about salary caps, and he's trying to, in his words, educate the players on the business of things and the options and what may be coming up, which is what the commissioner should be doing. If you're trying to make changes, you got to be selling both sides on this. And so the story is Manfred spoke to the Phillies players for about an hour, but in the middle of it, he started talking about, he never mentioned salary cap, but revenue sharing and competitive balance. And Bryce Harper stood up and said, "Get the F out of my clubhouse," or our clubhouse. To which Rob Manfred responded back, "I will not get the F out of your clubhouse."
This is my clubhouse, and I'll be wherever I want to be.
And apparently other players, including Castellanos, kind of
calmed
everybody down and said, "I've got more questions." Because the players truly, most of them don't understand this.
Yeah.
No, but what I find interesting in the way this has been reported is, and if you don't think there should be a salary cap, that's a valid opinion. I think there should be. I think there needs to be more rev share and salary cap, and I think ultimately the players would make more money in that regard.
Yeah.
I think baseball players pull 35 to 40% of the revenues of sport when other sports are at 50 because it's collectively bargained that they have to spend that much. And that's always, the baseball players want a floor. They get mad teams don't spend, but you're not rev sharing, you're not doing all this other stuff. So I think it would be in their best interest to do this. If you disagree, that's fine. But the funny thing in the reporting of this is Bryce Harper is the one who stood up and said, "Get the F out." No, not one story I've read, no matter where it reported, didn't say Bryce Harper has a $330 million contract and is one of the handful of players that benefit from this system, while everybody else makes less. Not one person has reported that at all in all these stories I've read about this.
That's what we call context, and it should be in there.
Yes. Now, if a scrub or a guy who's been, up and down for the last 3 years fighting for a spot said that,
they'd say, "Why the hell
that would be bigger
say
news.
Yeah.
That'd be bigger news if you're against a salary cap."
True.
And as Rob Manfred has pointed out, 10% of the players take 75% of the income for the players.
Which is the players' union's fault.
Yeah.
They're not looking after the best interest of all their members. They're looking after the best interest. Now they and others may argue, because I used to hear this about the NFL too, because the NFL had a situation where guys coming into the league as late as 2010, when Joe McCoy was a rookie, you would get all the guaranteed money. You get $60 million guaranteed before you played one down of NFL football, while some of these guys that were in the league 4 or 5 years weren't making anywhere near that or getting anywhere near those guarantees. And so the union, in their estimation, felt like, well, we should take care of the guys that have actually survived 4 years and reached free agency before we start just guaranteeing all the money to rookies that haven't played it down. And they changed it. They had a rookie salary scale. Now, the same people would tell you, or some would say, screw that. Just get as much money as you can in the system. Why do you care where it goes? In other words, you're giving the owners an out here. You're giving them an out because you're saying we're going to pay rookies a smaller scale, and then we're going to leave it up to their discretion as to how much they're going to give the veterans once they reach free agency. And a lot of guys in the union was like, I don't care who gets it so long as it's being paid.
Yep. Which is where baseball has failed, the players' union.
Right.
And, I remember when Steven Stamkos, this is back in 2016, when he was a free agent and could have gone elsewhere and decided to stay in Tampa. And he took less money here. He took, $8.5 million a year for the 8 years here.
Mm-hmm.
And he could have got $11 million here. And there were people, the union hates this, and you need to get the most. Well, every team has a salary cap, and if Stamkos takes less in Tampa, but Tampa Bay spends to the salary cap every year, what do you care as a union? Who cares?
Right.
As
Well,
a
how
union,
do you care how they distribute it?
as a union, your job is to get the most money for the players.
That's right. That's
period.
correct.
Not
for all the players.
Not for 10% of the players.
Mm-hmm.
Give me the collective. I want as much money from the owners as I can get. 50, 60, 70, whatever percentage I can get.
Yeah.
How we divvy it up, that's a champagne problem.
Right.
But if you're only taking 40% of the revenues of the sport when others are taking 50, then that's malpractice by your union.
Yeah.
And the people running it and making the decisions. Like that's egregious. Like if Bryce Harper makes $330 million in a new salary cap, I don't care. But if you're the players, as a collective, we need to get as much money as we can. How we divvy it up, we'll figure it out. Like those are good problems to have. If you can take another 10% off the owners, wow. How much now is the minimum salary going to be? How much is everybody going to make more?
Well, they will, but I guess the fear one, he's after his own self-interest because he's one of the highest paid players.
Mm-hmm.
But two, what does that look like really? You know what I mean? In other words, can we come up with a number to we're not letting owners off the hook? You know what I mean? By saying, oh, you don't have to pay these outrageous salaries. They're not going to just be bargained with one player who's going to raise the bar on everybody else.
Right.
We're going to make this easy for you. We're going to have a salary cap where you have to cap things, and if you have, then you can go to the players and say, "Well, I'm out of money. I'm up against a salary cap," and then that begets collusion. Sometimes we've seen that in the NFL.
Well, you need a salary floor as well, which
you have to have a floor, and those are the numbers
that's all
that
part
are hard.
Of a salary
they're
cap
hard
system.
to get to, though. You know what I mean? Like, do you want to argue that every team has $150 million or $200 million and they must spend up to that, or do you want to say, hey, if you got it, go spend it, and then the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Chicago Cubs, or whoever the big market teams are, rising tide lifts all boats. Like all of a sudden they have a $300 million payroll. Is that bad for baseball? Might be bad for the sport, really good for some players, right?
Absolutely. And I don't fault Bryce Harper for having the opinion he has. If I made $330 million, I'd want to protect
I wouldn't want to cap either. No.
Yeah. No, I don't fault him for his opinion on that and for taking that stance because he's one of the guys getting paid handsomely.
Sure.
But I just find it funny in the reporting. Not one of the stories.
Nobody mentioned that he had.
Nobody mentions that.
To lose.
Oh, by the way, he's got one of the biggest contracts in baseball.
Yeah, period. No, you needed that context. That's really funny, and in a bad way. But don't make it sound like he was just the champion of all baseball players. Like stood up for his union. Yeah. No, he stood up for himself.
And I believe he believes that. I mean, but. It's the system that's rewarded him handsomely, so I'm going to believe that.
No, he believes it with all his heart and bank account. Yeah. It's worked for him. If it ain't broke, if you're Bryce Harper, it ain't broke.
I mean, it really looks like if Manfred's really pushing for these changes, because the owners want them, there's enough owners that are fed up, and even some of the bigger markets don't want to keep trying to outspend the Dodgers and others.
Yeah.
When you got owners like the Orioles and the Yankees considering this, then you know that one is going to change, but the players are at this point adamantly against it. Although I don't know how much the rank and file players understand.
Probably they don't.
What could happen in that, and that's what Manfred's trying to do in this. But there's no question, December 2026, there's going to be a lockout. There's going to be a work stoppage in baseball.
Oh, I believe that. Yeah.
Now, you've got 5 months till spring training starts at that point, or 4 months, I guess. So how long it goes, who knows?
Till the end.
But much like a few years ago, and they did this in December, they locked it, and they ended up, they came to a deal in late February or early March, and they pushed the season back a week. Spring training was a little shorter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's going to happen that quickly this time, but they're definitely that December 2026, baseball will be in a work stoppage. Almost guarantee it.
Ugh, I hate
Now,
those.
like you said, can they solve it before the season starts? There's a chance, sure. I mean, it's the best deals don't happen until there's a
You gotta have a
timeline.
deadline, yeah.
And when your deal expires in December and you're not playing games till the end of March,
Then you're gonna waste February too.
well, yeah. I mean, my
And
guess is
most of
spring training
March.
is going to start late or be short,
Yeah.
but we'll see.
You talked about like competitive balance and obviously the big market teams benefiting since 2000. I'll just read you the names of the World Series champions. The Yankees won in 2000. Then it was the Diamondbacks, which you would not say
Mm-hmm.
is really a big market team. Anaheim is in the LA, so all right, let's give it to them. The Florida Marlins, not big market.
Yeah,
Boston
but
Red
they spent a
Sox,
lot. They spent a lot, and then they
they
sold the
bought.
team off after that.
Yeah, they kind of bought free agents. The Red Sox obviously are. The White Sox, I'd have to go back and look who they had with Ozzie Guillen. Then it's the Cardinals who draw 3 million people a year. The Red Sox again. The Philadelphia Phillies, somewhere in there. The Yankees again. The Giants, I don't know if that's really a big market team. They had some free
They
agents.
spend a lot now. I mean,
They do now, yeah. The Cardinals again, the Giants again, the Red Sox, yes, big market. The Giants again. That's when they went on that run there with 3 and 4 years, and then you have Kansas City,
mm-hmm.
the Cubs, which is obviously a big market. Houston, pretty big city in Texas.
Yep.
Boston Red Sox again. Nationals was sort of the outlier. I mean, DC.
A little bit, but they got money there. I mean, it's a decent size.
Well,
It's
they
not
got
it's not the bigger
Hoppe and
markets, but yeah,
Schwabe, and they're paying
yeah.
a lot of players. Yeah.
At Strasburg, they had
Yeah, and then you're back to LA, Atlanta, Houston again, the Rangers, which I don't
they've
know.
been spending money.
Yeah, and then the Dodgers again.
They've always
So,
Rangers have always spent a lot of money, not always smartly, but they've always spent a lot of
with
money.
the exception of Arizona and maybe the Marlins, who
but
did
those
spend
are
money
early
for those
2000s.
World Series.
Those
Yeah.
are 20 years ago when the financials of baseball were different too. I mean,
yeah, and it's teetered all the way to the big market, big money, really big payroll teams. And
I mean, Shohei Ohtani is making $70 million this year. Now, 68 of it's deferred, but he's $70 million is his average salary for this year. That's more than some teams.
yeah, it is more than the Rays payroll was probably 3/4 of their existence.
Yeah.
It is nuts. I mean, the money's been crazy, but you're gonna kill the golden goose because you're gonna have to keep people's interest. It can't be, I like ice cream, but I can't have it for dinner and lunch and breakfast. You keep shoving the same big market teams down my throats in the postseason every year, unless I'm from that city, and maybe even if I am, I'm gonna get tired of it. So they gotta find some way to do it. But it is interesting that Harper was a little little militant protecting his
And
whatever he makes.
that's kind of his personality too. So
Yeah,
it's not surprising.
No, not really. Not really. Hell of a player. Been a great player for a long time. Yes, you remember when he was a freaking kid, they were predicting things for him on the cover of Sports Illustrated, for God's sakes.
Yep. Oh, he's phenomenal.
From Las Vegas and all this stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, so, well, we can't solve all the world's problems tonight, but it would be nice if baseball at least gave other teams a chance, and who knows, it might help the popularity of their sport. You just don't know. Bucks are off, as I mentioned today. The Rays continue their series with the Yankees. Then it's home for 3 against the Dodgers. I guess a 4-game series in New York, right?
Yep. So tonight and tomorrow night. So you got 2 left. Yep.
I'm going to go, and this is not a public service announcement in case you want to meet me, because I'm not looking to meet anybody, but I'm going to be at the Yankees game, the Dodgers game against the Rays at Steinbrenner later this week, and we could see Shohei Ohtani and the boys. Hopefully, don't sweat too much. Although,
you will.
Yeah, it's really warm.
The heat dome is like being lifted in most of the country later this week, except here.
It's insane. I know. It looks great everywhere else. 100 and something, here, 117 heat index. And even at night, like, man, I came out of that place. The indoor was pretty warm, even though air conditioned. But then when I got outside, oh my God. And we're talking, 9:30 at night. Yeah. I mean, come on.
I'm just hoping this extra heat just means the hurricanes are staying away. I'll take the heat for no hurricanes. I can take that.
Yeah, I mean, from a high pressure, it's still humid, which is weird. The dew point's not very low, but like There wasn't any clouds in the sky, which indicates high pressure.
Well, I just mean for the whole season. Like, all this heat
Oh,
dome.
you want no hurricanes?
It could stay elevated heat here if we're going to keep hurricanes away. I'll be fine with that.
I see
I'll
what
take
you're
that
saying.
trade.
Yeah.
I mean, Mother Nature doesn't work that way, but
it'd be nice though, wouldn't it? If she did every now and then.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't want to be playing in it. I can tell you that. And it's hard enough just to stand around. I don't know how those guys are in pads and doing all that stuff, but hopefully we'll get a reprieve here before long. Make sure you go see our friends at Breitling Boutique. Seriously, if you love watches and you want to treat yourself or your wife or girlfriend to a great timepiece, Breitling's been in business 140 years. International Plaza for 5, center of the mall, second floor. Check out all the watches they have for men and women. And while supplies last, the NFL watches, all 32 teams represented there as part of the 104th year anniversary. It's Breitling Boutique, International Plaza Mall. Thanks as always for listening. For Steve Versnick, I am Rick Stroud of the Tampa Bay Times. Have a great day, everybody.